simplest way is just to say, like, all these things that you're asking about are outside of our control. We can observe and identify the things that potentially could happen, but it's a circular conversation that never has a result because it's tomorrow we're talking about and who knows. What can we focus on today that will help move the needle regardless of what happens out there? And I think that's where it's like, all right, bringing their view from here to here and now giving them the actual controls and giving them a reason to move forward. There's a lot that goes into, especially with this, the volatility in everything that is discussed on the news.
Do you think money takes up more life space than it should? On this show, we discuss with and share stories from artists, authors, entrepreneurs, and advisors about how they mindfully minimize the time and energy spent thinking about money. Join your host, Jonathan Dio, and learn how to put money in its place and get more out of life.
Hey, welcome back. On this episode of the Mindful Money Podcast, I'm chatting with Eric Roberge. Eric has over 2 decades as a financial advisor and is the founder of Beyond Your Hammock, a wealth management firm based in Boston, helping professionals in their 30s and 40s use money as a tool to design a life they love. He's been featured in all kinds of media. He's been named to Investment News 40 Under 40, as well as a list of Investopedia's top 100 most influential advisors. I was on that list. I want to have him on the podcast to talk about his firm, the financial advice business, and serving folks in their 30s and 40s who presumably don't have as much wealth to manage, even though they could have enormous incomes and be well on their way. Eric, welcome to the Mindful Money Podcast.
Yeah, Jonathan, thanks for having me. Looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, me too. So first, I know you call Boston home. Where are you connecting from?
Cambridge, Massachusetts right now.
Okay. Did you grow up there or did you grow up someplace else?
In Massachusetts, I grew up, but not in the city proper.
Okay. So this question is pretty normal for me to ask. I'm wondering what you learned about money and entrepreneurship growing up.
Not much. Don't have debt. Don't have credit card debt was the biggest thing that I learned from my parents, who I would say were not financially savvy people. They were blue collar workers just trying to make enough money to live a life that they enjoyed living. So being able to spend money wisely, I think I learned that from them as well. But as far as like growing wealth or entrepreneurship of any sort, that didn't happen until I got into college, went to Babson College, where entrepreneurship is king.
Yeah. Is there any stories? Do you remember any, around the dinner table conversations or, out with mom shopping for groceries, an experience with money that adds to your money story?
Yeah. There's 2 things that come to mind and they're pretty short. So the first one is, I don't even remember. I've talked to my mother about this before, but we were in her old sedan. This was back in the mid 80s, maybe call it early to mid 80s. And we broke down on a major road that had a bunch of, strip malls on the sides. And we were right in the middle of the road and we had to get out of the car with all the people honking at us. And we went to this, I don't know, a bank or something to use the phone because no one had cell phones back then, to call a tow truck. And somehow that stuck with me. I was probably 4 years old. And I don't know what about that stuck with me, but it made me say, I never want to not have enough money to provide for myself.
It's like the car breaking down was evidence of not enough money. I mean, sometimes cars just break down. This last weekend, I was camping with a friend of mine who's got a, very nice BMW, and it just locked up for a voltage reason. And we had to call a tow truck in the middle of the campsite 3 hours away. It's costing him thousands. So sometimes cars just break down. It's not an issue of not enough money.
Yeah, no, I've racked my brain for why it stuck with me. And I agree with you. And it has, right? And the other one was, it was 1989, bad economy. I was obviously not working at that point yet, but my father was laid off. And I remember being at dinner and finishing dinner and going to the sink and turning the water on to rinse my plate off before putting it in the dishwasher. And he said, let's not waste water. I was like, wow. Oh, okay, I guess. I was 11 years old, 12 years old. And that really stuck with me too. He doesn't remember saying it.
Yeah, don't use 3 seconds of water. Right? That's a scarcity thing right there. Do you think you carry out of that kind of a scarcity issue for yourself?
There might be, I mean, there's some scarcity. I don't know if anybody can say that they don't have scarcity in their mind, but there's certainly a scarcity mindset, which I mean, I try to use and transform to drive me forward versus
Yeah.
trying to run away from it. There's a little bit of that.
Before we talk about Beyond Your Hammock, can you sketch kind of your career path? Tell people how you got into financial advice to begin with, and then you started your own company. What led to that?
Well, it probably starts with just the college thing, because initially I was going to go to school for biology, and the Babson College soccer coach kept calling me saying, you should come here and play soccer. And I kind of wanted to play soccer. So it was nice to have an avenue to go there. So I went to ended up switching gears, going to Babson College, all business, and found the Wall Street Journal in my dorm that was free on the shelf and started to read it, and was good at math to begin with, and then liked the idea of investments and just naturally started to take courses on investing and accounting and entrepreneurship. 2002, I graduated college, so it's a bad economy. And State Street Bank was saying, hey, we don't usually get people from Babson, but here we are. Thought that was an interesting pitch on joining. But my aunt had worked at State Street, and I said, you know what? It's a good training program. Let me get my feet wet. I don't trust myself in the sales role, so let me just go there and get trained. Got into mutual fund accounting, switched over to JP Morgan in mutual fund taxes, both back office, right? Not front client facing. And that to me was not as exciting as it could have been. And 2007 came around and I said, listen, I got to get out of here. November 2007, my friend said, why don't you just jump out of that career, a well-paying job at the peak of the market, no one knew this at the time, and become a financial advisor, which I knew nothing about. And here we are.
So you launched your own firm in 2007.
Well, no, I was joining another firm at that point.
Got it.
I had no income and I had to create my own income, and I didn't know what I was doing, which was a disaster because I didn't make any money. Like, people weren't trusting their advisors for the last 20 years, never mind this new guy that was 27 years old saying, hey, give me your life savings, please.
So I'm curious, when did you leave that firm and set up your own shop?
Well, I bounced around a couple of times. So 5 years of sorting through things, becoming a junior advisor at a firm, realizing that I wasn't going to go anywhere there or become part of that business officially, just always just employee status. 2012, I realized, you know what? It's just as much of a risk for me to stay at this firm and have the owner decide he's going in a different direction or selling off to somebody else, as it would be for me just to jump out and do it again and restart doing it on my terms with my own business. So 2013 is when I launched my firm.
Wow, great. You've been doing it for 12 years and you've sort of carved out this, maybe it's different in Boston. In the Bay Area, there's not many people that are focused on income. They're focused on, assets and in terms of advisors. So how did you carve out that specific idea, 30, 40 high income as a client base?
It all came back to the book. Well, one, I wanted to find something that I really was passionate about and that I could feel good about because I knew about it, right? So my age group was that versus retirees, which a lot of advisors focus on. But then I read the book, Blue Ocean Strategy. The idea is blue ocean, no competition, red ocean, all competition. It's a bloodbath of competition, if you will. And I just thought that was brilliant and realized back in 2012 that no one's focusing on millennials. No one's focusing on younger people because they didn't have assets. And I wasn't selling a commissionable product like life insurance. So how do you actually work with them and make a business where you can make money? So the idea of paying a subscription to be involved with a financial coach of sorts, it was a cash flow coach. Let's be honest. At that point, it was a cash flow coach, budgeting coach, trying to help people start to save and grow was what I did. And nobody's really doing it. So it was kind of a blue ocean for myself.
So a subscription, it wasn't hourly, it wasn't project. It wasn't like project, planning project. Right? It was a subscription-based fee. At that point, what did you give them? Was it a monthly conversation? Was it a workbook? So what did people get and what do people get today? How's that changed over time?
Significant change. So back then I think my first client, I was charging $50 a month, but gradually I was starting to build a business and getting confidence in my conversations. So we were definitely building a budget. We were looking at someone's balance sheet. A lot of times there was debt on the balance sheet. We were trying to make a cash flow plan to knock down debt and or save up money, get their employer match, just really basic, but really important foundational pieces to your financial life. And if you're in your 20s and 30s, that's where you're getting to to know this stuff. And over the years, the people that I started talking to were getting more and more sophisticated, higher and higher income paying jobs. At this stage, I mean, people are typically in their 40s. They work for a tech or biotech company, so they have equity compensation. They're making upwards of $1 million a year. And there's a lot more happening for them. They have kids, they're married, their priorities are stretched thin, and you got to sort through it on the fly while your emotions are high. And we try to set the stage for them.
Calm, right? Calm. I hope you don't mind me asking this question. I assume you still have some clients that come in of that nature that don't just have, AUM out of the gate. As a percentage of your business, how much is like the AUM style versus the subscription style versus anything else you might do?
Well, I mean, I blended it together. I used to have separate services, but now it's one service. It's a wealth management service. It's a combined fee. So I have a financial planning plus assets under management combined, depending on level of assets, we'll charge a certain rate.
So you talk about big decision consulting based on core values. Can you kind of explain that?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times people are coming through, and in this area, as we talked about before the podcast, you in San Fran and me in Boston, real estate is not cheap. And to go from even a condo that you own in the city to a suburban house that fits 1, 2, 3 kids, you're talking a lot of money. And without guidance, people will go all emotion and say, well, my family needs this. I need to do this purchase of a house. And they buy into the house. And then they realize they're stuck in the house and they can't do the things that they really are passionate about, the ones they value the most that they've been doing beforehand, like traveling and providing for their children outside of the house. So the big decision consulting one would be something like that. How do we choose the house that fits in the area that we value with the people in the community that we love and still not break the bank to allow us, because a lot of people want this freedom of choice, to live fully now and still save for the future?
Yeah. I know that I had a client who came, this is probably 15, 18 years ago, who had just done what you just said. You had just purchased way too much house and they were just, tight. Everything was tight. They were not happy. And I just made the little subtle, you don't have to keep that house. I know you just bought it. There's going to be some sunk costs in this whole process of transit, but you can live the way you want to live. You can do the things you want to do. So I'm curious, how do you get to core values with clients? Do you have a specific set of questions you go through? How do you do it? How do you get to core values? What are core values?
It's not a direct, like, here's the conversation, here's the core values. Because what I've found is that people don't often scratch the surface of the question at all. People are asking themselves, what are my core values? So when you ask them, they say, I don't know, family, community, like, yes, but actionable core values, not so much. So I think it's more of a series of conversations where we're starting to look at finances, what they want to do, what they show that they spent money on, and then bringing it back around to say, all right, well, you say you want freedom to retire at 50 so that you can live this life that you're passionate about. Yet you're spending so much money that you can't actually save enough money to retire at 50. So what's happening here? Where's your money going? Well, we're traveling. We love to travel. The family's only going to be here for 18 years. So we need to travel and explore the world. What value is that for you? So that kind of conversation to really draw it out naturally and help them identify what it is before they know what it is.
Yeah. Have you seen any of these tools, values-based selling? There's a bunch of tools out there that help people people like us help people get to those values. And I've gone through like 4 or 5 different seminars on the topic. I think it's really important to start with those core values for sure. You also mentioned something, and I've never heard this phrase before, called optionality-focused financial planning. Can you explain that? How is that different?
Well, I don't know if it's different, right? I think it's identifying what people are dealing with in an ever-changing environment, which is mid-career. People say like, oh, there's nothing to plan for until you get to retirement, but there's so much. I mean, people are changing careers in tech and biotech. It's every 3 years you're changing to the next firm. So you have your old equity compensation back at the old firm, and you got this new set of benefits, a new compensation structure, maybe a new area to live while you're trying to maintain your child's education on a consistency basis. Like maybe they want their own friends. And so like, there's just so much going on at once. And when something comes up, we want people to be able to have options. When they're presented with three good choices, we want them to be able to choose the one that fits them instead of saying, well, I can't do that one or that one, so I guess I'm forced to do this one.
Creating options.
Creating the ability to choose when you're presented with options, which you undoubtedly will be doing every year. I mean, for example, like us personally right now, this year on January 1st, none of this was in the works. But now we decided that our child should go to a new Montessori school that isn't in Cambridge, but is in a suburb outside of Cambridge, because it's going to go through 8th grade versus just through pre-K. At the same time, we were refinancing our mortgage to try to get a lower rate. We decided we should rent that place out and go to the suburbs and live in this place near school, so we had a lower commute. So now we brought in renters to lease our condo in the city. And at the same time, we were saying, what should we do with the business? Should we optimize the internal workings of the business and look at the operations? Yes, we should. So let's get a consultant. So the ability to have the time and space to be able to choose these things that you may not otherwise be able to do if you're not planning for optionality. I work via Zoom, so I can be anywhere, right? So there's certain things you build in your life to make you flexible. And then as long as you have the financial wherewithal to be able to make these choices, you can do what fits your family best. And I think that's what I'm talking about when we say planning for optionality.
Just sort of using the prior example, it sounds like buying too much house reduces your options. Like you can't then do these other things. So it's like right sizing every decision so that it leaves your options open. And also obviously you're probably working towards how much you're supposed to be saving for miscellaneous stuff that comes up, right? So it's all that stuff.
Yeah.
What are some of the core issues that face the 30 to 40-year-old demographic today? I mean, I can rattle off a few, like early money issues for couples and, high price of real estate, college debt, these kinds of things. But what are some of those things that you bring together in addition to the ones we all read about in the paper?
Yeah. I mean, so it's typically we're meeting people when they are getting married or are already married with kids. So there's that whole conversation about if they're getting married, right? Joining finances is a key factor, and everybody's got their own money mindset. So there could be a clash of the titans coming together. And sometimes people want to separate their money forever. Sometimes people want to join it all right at the get-go, which is the simplest way to go, but not always the best way to go for people. Sometimes people have really different financial circumstances. So there's prenuptial agreements that are discussed. A lot of complexity just there. Then you bring in kids to the mix, and there's a decision on, all right, well, now we're both working people and we have no time, but we want to raise children. So either someone has to back off their hours, and maybe it's not easy to identify who that person is because it's not always the woman, right? That doesn't make any sense. It's what would make the most sense for this family, which is hard. And sometimes they don't want to do that. Then it's a nanny or a daycare, which costs like $60,000, $70,000 for a full-time nanny. And so on top of private school, potentially for people, you have like $125,000 a year cash flow need for private school and a nanny while you're still working. Are you spending enough time with your kids? Is it actually what you want to be doing? And so it's a whole shift of conversation to realize like, you have the money to do what you want to do. Let's figure out how to do it right. You only have one chance at this.
Do you have like I don't know, like family planning therapist on staff? I mean, it sounds like you'd need something like that.
We should. No, we don't have that.
Yeah. I don't think any advisories do. That's not a slight. So this is my favorite question, or my favorite topic to get into with advisors, is an issue of circle of competence. I have theories. I'm sure you've got an opinion on this as well, but what is it that we're really good at that makes us worth the cost? Like, I think we're kind of a luxury good. So what is it that we're good at? What is it that people should be looking for when they're looking for an advisor?
I think so. Think of going into the gym and not being prepared for what you find in the gym. You don't have a regiment. You don't know what machines to do. You don't even know where to focus on your body. Or maybe you have identified your goals. Are you losing weight? Are you building muscle? Do you have a nutrition program? So you walk into the gym and you're like, all right, great. You run around trying to do all the machines and lift all the weights. And then you hurt yourself, or you don't come back because you're like, this is stupid. I'm not gaining anything. It's providing the structure for your financial life. So you build the structure so that within which you can make good financial decisions that are aligned with your values and allow you to achieve your goals faster and more directly than you would if you were just floundering around on your own, not because you're not smart enough, but because your mind is going in so many directions and your emotions are coming in that you can't see clearly what you need to do next, and you don't do it at all.
It sounds like planning, like financial planning. That's the maybe identifying values, planning. So once you have a written plan, what's the value after that?
I think it's accountability. Like, we have planned spring and fall meetings along with, the one-off timely thing because someone's buying a car and they don't know what to do about it.
Yep.
And instead of saying, wow, it's been 3 years since we talked about money, we should probably talk about money. We're saying, hey, we're here. Let's have a conversation about money.
Do you think that's the reason people hire us? When people come to you, what are they trying to solve for out of the gate? Because I don't think people go, hey, I need a financial plan now. I think they go, I inherited money, or I just got married, or I have this thing happen. So what is it people come to you looking for? And how do you guide them to, planning and accountability? That's what matters.
I think a lot of our clients come to us because they've had this optimization mindset. One, I want to optimize and make the best decisions along the way. And two, I am afraid of making the wrong decision. And if you're afraid of making the wrong decision, you want to make sure that your eyes are wide open. You understand what the pros and cons of these choices are before you make them. And so having that discussion when it's just a playground of sorts, because you're just projecting and talking and saying like, oh, I didn't even think of that pitfall, before you make that decision and commit to something you can't turn around on. That's really the value that I think we provide a lot of people. And then again, they can put all their energy into what they're good at and outsource to things that they could do if they had time, but they just don't have the time and bandwidth to do.
Right. I mean, I don't change my own oil. I always say there's some things I've chosen not to do. And so that's why I hire the people to do those things. And this is one of those things where there's a lot of emotion in it. People are afraid, as you said, of making the wrong decision, but they're just afraid of thinking about money so very often. So I totally agree. Those are great reasons. I'm wondering if you have a pithy way or some way of communicating that to clients. For me, when somebody comes in, they always ask about, how do the portfolios perform? They always ask about, what do you think about, the current president, or what do you think about the current economy? And they want commentary on markets, and I constantly try to guide around. I don't know what's going to happen next. Like I can't predict. No one else can either. I'm just going to be honest about it. No one else can predict. Here's what I can do. I'm wondering if you have a way to talk about that and contextualize it for people, so they go, yes, I get that.
Well, simplest way is just to say, like, all these things that you're asking about are outside of our control. We can observe and identify the things that potentially could happen, but it's a circular conversation that never has a result because it's tomorrow we're talking about, and who knows? What can we focus on today that will help move the needle regardless of what happens out there? And I think that's where it's like, all right, bringing their view from here to here, and now giving them the actual controls and giving them a reason to move forward. There's a lot that goes into, especially with this, in this day and age with politics and the volatility in everything that is discussed on the news.
Yeah. Do you give people, this is a coach told me to do this a long time ago. He said, Jonathan, you have to give people permission to turn off the news. Like, tell them it's okay. Like, to shut it off. Like, it's not helping you. Do you do that?
Yeah. I tell my dad that. Why is the news on right now? This is like death and destruction. It's not even, how are you going to start your day positively when you listen to the news?
Yeah.
It's not
it's just horrible. So I want you to simplify this for us. I do this with every guest that I have on. Just pretend for a second you have a new potential client coming in. What is one thing, like the first thing you would have them do right out of the gate, that would absolutely, without question, lead them to better financial outcomes?
That's a really tough question. Right out the gate, like when I talk to somebody, I say, what's on your mind? And I just shut up. And they spend 5 minutes just talking. And then they say, sorry, that went longer than I thought. I'm like, it's exactly what I want you to do, because you just said what is right there front and center for you without me asking a specific question about what was there for you.
So let's change the context then. Let's not put it as somebody coming into the office and talking to you the first time and you're asking them that question. You're sitting on a plane with somebody. You got 45-minute flight. It's not long. They sit down, they're happy, they're cheery. What do you do? Oh, I do this. And they go, oh, what's one tip? Like, what's one thing that I can do that would make things better for me? You don't have time for the whole story or anything like that.
So the person says, what is one tip, financially speaking, that I could implement now and be better off because I do it?
Yeah. What's one thing I can do today?
I mean, it's just identify the goal. When is it? How much does it cost? And how much do you want it?
Excellent. Identify the goal. There's a flip side to the question. And that's what's one thing that this person might be doing that they should stop doing that would improve their outcomes as well.
Yeah. I mean, I would just talk about like what is one thing that you continually find yourself spending on that you regret spending on?
Oh, a good answer. I like to ask as we come to the end, I like to ask a couple more personal questions. One of the things out of this conversation that I got was you played soccer in college.
Yeah, I saw that you played too.
Yeah, I still play. Do you still play?
I've decided not to resort to golf so I don't hurt my knees.
Oh, that's totally different. It's nowhere near as fun. Nowhere near as fun as soccer. I love the sport. Anyway, what position did you play?
Striker.
Striker. Okay. And you played for Babson?
Yep.
Babson is what? D2?
3.
NAI? D3?
D3. Yeah.
Okay. Do you work with athletes?
I mean, I enjoy working with people who have played sports in the past. I would not say that we work with athletes.
Okay. Cool. Is there anything that people don't know about you or don't remember about you that you really want them to know?
People know that I'm passionate about what I do.
Yeah.
I'm talking about it online all the time.
Yeah.
So that's what I want people to know, though. I want people to know that I really care about my job because of the impact that I have on the people that I work with. And also because it's a direct reflection on me and who I am as a person. And if someone perceives me as not being honest, trustworthy, or just caring in a way that I would give my time to help them, whether it's a little question like, lease or buy a car, or it's a major life decision, I want them to think of me. And so that's it.
I think I started my career and spent the first 30 years of my career doing that same kind of thing. I want to be the hub. You need something done? I want to be the hub. Absolutely. This isn't meant as a zinger. Oftentimes people feel this way. What is the last thing you change your mind about?
Living in Cambridge.
Hey, you kind of described that story, and you're going towards the school for the kiddo.
Yeah, like city living versus not. We're like, yeah, we want to live in the city. We want access. We want to walk everywhere, which we still like the idea of that. But there are certain things that are more valuable to us now as a family that have changed our decision. I mean, we bought our condo in 23. We're already deciding to shift gears and go somewhere different, which is something that I tell people, if you're going to buy a place, stay there 5 to 7 years minimum, right? And we had that idea, but things change.
Things change. And kudos for the decision, because I just brought up this memory of my own. My dad worked in computer science in San Francisco Bay Area, I don't know, before the dot-com boom, like 20, 30 years before the dot-com boom. So like Hewlett-Packard is just starting, all these companies are brand new, right? He moved the family to South Dakota for safety, security, leave the doors unlocked, community, all those kinds of things you'd get in kind of a small town in the middle of the country. And it was a fantastic decision for the kids. Did that for the kids. And so it's, doing the things that sort of support the right environment for the kids, I think frankly, that's the last thing we have to do is raise great kids. Like that's once we get to a place in our careers, the last thing we have to do is take care of the kids. So I kudos to the decision. I know it's not easy to make those decisions, but I think it's probably the right one. So finally, tell people how they can connect with you. Where do they find you?
I mean, 2 things. One, beyondyourhammock.com. That really is the driving force behind everything. It's got the blog, it's got the podcast that is coming back online soon, and all content, whether you want to engage with us as a client or just read and learn, it's all there. And then on LinkedIn, we are very active on LinkedIn.
As an aside, how are you active on LinkedIn? What does that even mean?
The posts that we create consistent content on LinkedIn almost daily.
Wow. And you guys do that, or do you have a service that does it?
Kaylee, my wife, works full-time with the business, and she is our chief content officer along with COO of the business. She does it.
Wow. Okay. That explains the Investopedia, most influential. That's how you get there.
That's right.
When I was on the list 25 years ago, it's because I was, posting constantly on Twitter at that time. And it's just, good job. You're going to go far doing that, and your wife's going to drive it, which is awesome. Yeah. So thanks very much for coming on the podcast. Is there anything else you want to share with folks?
No, I mean, I really appreciate this conversation with another advisor who knows what it takes to be good at what you do. And it's the people, right? So I just want people to know that if you want an advisor, there's plenty of them out there, and there's plenty that focus on your specific type of situation. Whether you have make a lot of money, make a little money, have a lot of money, have a little money, specifically on debt versus wealth management, like it's all there. So if you go online, you will find someone that fits exactly what you need because they work with people just like you.
Yep. And those expertises are niche. They really, really are. If you do something like 30, 40-year-olds with high incomes and you're building something and family stuff, and that's the dynamic, and you work with 50 of those, that's great. If you work with one, you're not going to be great at it, right? That's something you guys do. And so kudos to you, and enjoy Boston. Thanks so much for coming on the program. Much appreciated.
Appreciate it too.
Thanks for listening. Full show notes for each episode, which includes a summary, key takeaways, quotes, and any resources mentioned, are available at mindful.money. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And if you're enjoying the content and getting value from these episodes, please leave us a rating and review at ratethispodcast.com/mindfulmoney. We'll be sure to read those out on future episodes.